First of all, first thing to say, is I want to be clear, this video is not required. If it's not interesting to you, just turn it off. But hopefully you'll find some of this material interesting. Now, I really didn't intend to make 3 videos this week, and I probably won't do it again this term. That's one of the reasons I want to keep this one short. But in the hurry to get the first 2 done for the week, I realized I left out something I really love, and that's infographics. And there's a lot of infographics about world religion. And so I just want to look at a few of them today just to kind of help you grasp some of the big picture stuff. There's all kinds of them out there, but these are just some that I think will help you get the big picture. So first, let's look at some geographic spread. This one's pretty straightforward, and that's why I chose it. It only gives 2 pieces of information: where people from different religions live and what percentage of the world they make up. I want to focus on the one where they live. So first of all, I want you to look at the green portion. Okay, the green portion is the distribution of where Christian countries or Christian populations live worldwide. Now, this highlights that particular thing, if you notice, is really widely spread, really from one side of the world to the other. The other thing you'll notice about that is it keeps it simple. It doesn't divide up Christianity into the major branches like Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox, like a lot of maps do. It just simply does Christian. And I like that because it just gives you that big overview. See how widely spread Christianity is. Then you look and you see in the center, you see that Islam is basically confined to a core area there it's spread in. Islam, although there's Muslims in many parts of the world, really in probably every part of the world today, Islam is pretty well confined to the Middle East and then spreading in 2 different directions out from the Middle East. And you notice Hinduism. Hinduism is pretty much confined to the Indian subcontinent. It's just that's really all you're going to find of it. Okay. And so on and so forth. So as you look at that map, it helps you grasp geographically the relationship between where different religions are located. Okay. Now, let's move on to this one. Okay. This graph here shows world religious populations. Okay. It shows the number of Christians in the world, the number of Muslims in the world, non-religious, Hindus, Buddhists, folk religion, all down the line. It just gives you a bit of a comparison there. It gives you a sense of how large, most people wouldn't realize that that really Buddhism compared to say Islam, well, Buddhists make up a very small portion, less than a half. In fact, it's really about a third of the number of Muslims in the world, or Hindus. And, comparing Hindus to Muslims, there's a lot fewer Hindus in the world than there are Muslims, and so on and so forth. That just kind of helps you get a picture of that right there. A good graphic of it. And it's got the little symbols out to the side that help you get used to seeing those, because many times on a lot of material now, you see symbolism like this. It helps associate with a certain religion, give you a visual, okay? Oh, also, by the way, feel free to pause this at any time to look at something more closely, okay? Now let's move on to this graphic, and this is a graphic. It's a little more complicated, but it's a good graphic, and it's one that you need to learn to read these kind of things if you're going to be doing much in the way of world mission, because a lot of information you need to present to churches or for your own use in ministry, you're going to be reading and things like this. So in this slide, we see about the changes in different religions. And this graphic shows projections for global population and from the perspective of world religions. So there's so much information on here. I want to just point out a couple key things. You've got 2 different sides to this. So make sure one is actual numbers, okay, population numbers, and one is percentage of population. Those are very different concepts, and make sure you understand that you're looking at differences between those 2, or you're going to interpret them wrongly, okay? But looking at this, there's a lot of information. So let's just kind of catch some of the big few things to point out. So as I said, the left side is the number of the population number. The right side is the percentage of world population. But they're all both sides are documenting change from 2010 to 2050 projection. Notice that at the top half, it compares Christians to Muslims. You look to the left, you see both are growing in numbers. Okay, don't think that much about it. Now look at the right, and you see the relative growth is quite different when you look at a percentage of global population. Christians stay at exactly the same, 31.4%, but Muslims go from 23.2% to 29.7%. That's a major change when you're talking about a global population. But that only becomes clear when you look at the change that's happening in populations, right? Let's look at another comparison. Look at Buddhist and animist that are put side by side. On the left, you see that they stay almost flat in terms of population numbers. And on the right, you see what that means. That means they both begin to drop as global populations get larger. They actually start having a smaller and smaller percentage of global population. Buddhists will drop almost 2 percentage points in that period of time, in the 40 years we're talking about, and animists will drop a little bit less than that. But those are some numbers that help you put it together. Then, now here's a graphic. Here's another graphic, a good one, that pulls a lot of these religious changes together. Goes back to 1970, then grabs 2010, and then projects 2050. Okay. These are called a stacked bar. And you can get all kinds of different, there's a lot of information in a chart like this. For example, in 1970, you can see, looking up and down that column, okay, up and down the stacked bar, you see in 1970, there were almost as many Hindus as there were Muslims in the world. Or let's move over to the column of 2050 projections. And then you see that by then, Muslims and Christians are going to be almost the same globally, whereas Hindus will be less than half their population numbers, far less than half. Or you can make comparisons across the years, kind of like what the map up above it did. You have to do this visually, but you see that Muslims go from 500 million to 1.5 billion to 2.75 billion in 80 years. It's massive growth. Whereas Buddhists stay exactly the same from 2010 to 2050. They stay right at 500 million. A lot of things you could interpret and you could think about from that. These numbers have a lot, this graph like this, and the other ones as well, but this graph has a lot can be extracted out of it that you could study from that one graph. Now, there's a lot more I could say about this, but I need to keep this video short, so I'm going to stop there. Just to remind you, reach out to me if you need some help, or join me in the Zoom room on Thursday mornings. All right, take care.